I think it was once said, what the UN does, it turns nations into humans. So we have global leaders gathered here in person again as humans, not speaking to each other on videos that frankly only distracted people were half listening to. We are confronted with humans at all different levels. And what's really interesting here is not just that you have the member states, which are the centerpiece, absolutely, of the UN high-level week gathering here, but you have so many forces for good gathered in New York City, from the private sector, from civil society, NGOs. It's just incredible how vibrant it is, and there is an energy. And of course, there is all the speeches. The Secretary General's speech was very, alarmist because the state of our world is really in peril. But at the same time, you have all of these people and all of these nations pledging to really do something about it. There is this real feeling that the UN is back. The UN is the only place for global cooperation. We cannot solve the world's intractable problems of climate change, of war, of refugees without multilateralism, and multilateralism is the UN. It is nations working together to solve problems. So, there was a lot of criticism when the Ukraine war broke out. Headlines saying, the UN has failed. Now we're seeing through UN efforts, the Black Sea Grain Initiative, ships going out carrying grain to poor people around the world. Not ending the war, but at least solving some of the problems. IAEA inspectors arriving at the nuclear power plant that was being attacked, and hopefully, creating a safer environment where we don't have a nuclear disaster. So I think the legitimacy of the UN has been recognized over the last few years, and it's just clear. This is where the discussions happen on how to solve the problems of the world. It is up to governments to make the most investment, and though we need all of society to pitch in, and that's what we're also seeing here in New York. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has absolutely launched also a discussion about how the Security Council works, how it is dysfunctional, especially when one permanent member of the Security Council is the invading country. So it's obviously started a debate. There are all kinds of proposals happening on how to strengthen the UN, how to strengthen the Security Council, maybe how to expand the Security Council, how to reform the Security Council, but also perhaps, there's been a revitalization of the General Assembly. And I think, seeing also how the different parts of the UN system are really making a difference, whether it's in the refugee response, whether it is in looking at how food systems work, responding to hunger, negotiating the grain deal. There's so many elements dealing with our nuclear perils that are essential. But how that all comes together here in New York, it's definitely. The Ukraine war has definitely launched a new debate. I think the private sector is absolutely critical to our succeeding. I mean, it really depends on the sector, but the private sector drives economies and has enormous influence also over governments, over consumers, over workforce. So actually we're seeing that the private sector can be a force for good, for reform, for environmental action, for climate action. It can be the opposite too, but customers and consumers are now calling on the private sector to be better. I can't even tell you how many CEOs I've seen walking around with this Sustainable Development Goal pin, and even saying that they are using the 17 goals as benchmarks, and that they're doing it because their workforce is demanding it and because it makes good business sense. So absolutely critical. I'm an optimistic person in general, but I have to say 5. Yeah, I think the climate has been so neglected. We're so far behind, and that's a huge worry. We have conflicts that are unresolved for years on end, and we have the Ukraine war raging with no sign of any incentive for peace. That said, again, there are so many people mobilized. I think we're in a new age of activism, a new age of collective consciousness and desire, not just to have the world a better place for the next generation, but actually for the younger generation that is living right now. So that feels good, because 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it was much more individualistic. So cautiously optimistic.